Hi, I'm going to show you how to pat stitch your lapel, and for this one you will need to mark your seam allowance on the canvas, which is whatever you have, 5 centimeters at the front and 2.5 centimeters goes along your neckline. So the pat stitching, which I actually made you little samples so you can see what it does. So I've done it in red, so I'm going to show you a demonstration actually in the color of the color thread. It should be the top fabric. As you see, where I put it and where I hold it, my lapel, so it creates the canvas and make it lapel very curvy. And if I shows like that, see, it's automatically, it creates that beautiful curve, which is what you will need to achieve with our pat stitching. And even if I try to open it like that, so see, it stands on its own. So that means that's been pat stitched correctly. I also would like to pay your attention to how I've done my stitchings, especially on another side of the fabric. Can you see little red dots in there? So trying to come as close as possible. They are about 1 millimeter dots. You see that? So about 1 millimeter dots there. And that is, if it's in the right color, it will help you. See that? Little tiny dots there, and it will help you to, you know, be more invisible. And but you know, I use it red so you can see the actual stitchings and everything. So it's very important that you are doing that and go through all the layers. Now I'm going to do a demonstration. So I've got my thread, single thread, always single thread, because you don't want to create thickness, especially going through the top layer as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, so mark my seam allowance. The finishing of my pat stitching going to be about 5 millimeters. So 5 millimeters just before my seam allowance starts. So I'm going to mark that. And it's actually quite small area you need to pat stitch. So what we're really talking about from your break line, that area, that's what we're only going to pat stitch. So the best way to do it is to flip over and then fold your canvas or your lapel in that manner. That way the canvas will go stretch over your hand, so you're holding with the hands, and the canvas will be slightly bigger, but then fabric underneath, which is your top fabric, will be pushed away and will be tighter. So I'm going to start on my break line. So it's up to you, but you can start it from that point, you can start from that point. So it depends which side of your side lapel you do. And going through all the layers, see, I can feel it, my little needle holding now. So the stitches itself is much smaller you used on your canvases. So it have to be, you know, maybe 3 times smaller. So it's quite tiny. And also it's going to be closer as well. So every time you're doing it, so you've done a couple of stitches, check, make sure you don't have, you know, your big stitches going through another side. So you have to be tiny. So you can keep consistent. So more consistent your thread, it looks nicer as well. And I'm holding, you see that I'm holding on my fingers, and that way gives you straight away some right tension you needed. Okay. So I've done my row there, so I'm going to stop just before my line, my seam allowance starts. Check, make sure my stitchings are not big. They sometimes can be you did notice that it can be too big, and you can unpick it and redo it. And then go back. If you understand the principle of pat stitching, how to pat stitch your lapel, you don't have to finish watching the video. But otherwise, it's good practice for you to see how it's done professionally. Just going to check, make sure it doesn't go through. Again, can you see it's very close to each other as well? The little stitches are. The more closer you do, the more obviously it became solid and keeps the shape. The bigger stitches you'll do, be more softer. Again, just make sure you don't go too close to your seam allowance, because otherwise you ended up unpicking. We will cut our seam allowance on the canvas, so that's why. And my thread is finished, so I'm just going to change it. If you notice straight away, it's already start to give that curve I desire. There you go. Different tailors do different ways of pat stitching. So that's, I found that way by holding with my hand and go over my hand. I found that more consistent. Just going to check my stitchings, make sure they are nice and neat on the other side. So better to check straight away, because if you do need to unpick, you don't have to unpick too much. Don't make it too tight either, because otherwise it will just not lay flat. Just going to check my stitches. They're perfect. remember to wear thimble, because now you're doing so much hand stitching, it could damage your skin. Just check my stitches. Nearly there. There we go. That's it. So I'm just going to secure my thread, and we're going to check, make sure don't have any stitchings. Perfect. Now, moment of truth, so we can see what's our lapel look like. Okay, can you see it straight away? It's standing like that. Perfect, isn't it? So, and that's where you're. So if I fold that down, so can you see there? It holds. That gives that shape. Okay, that's what's the look inside. See that? Yeah. And that's perfect. It automatically goes in the right direction. Okay, so if you achieve exactly the same and it looks the same as my one, then your job is done well. Bye.